Drivin Ivan here, and behind me is a Porsche 928. But not just any Porsche 928. This one is really special to me. I've had one before. Check out my review of my 1984 Porsche 928 along with a history of the car in that video. But this one behind me is the first year, 1978, first year in America. And it's special. Why? Because it's a 5-speed manual. Very rare, and to me, very special. So will I be impressed? Let's find out. Well, I think it's definitely a special looking car because even today, this is 1978. That's 40 years ago. And yeah, it might look a little dated because of the pop-up headlights, but the shape is still quite cool and in some ways modern. The side view is very cool with the glass in back and the kind of shark nose shape. Very cool. BMW had a shark nose earlier, but I think this one is also a bit of a shark nose too. Especially from this angle, I think you can get my shark nose reference. But this to me is by far the best angle. Check out the rear wheel well, how it's actually more shallow than the front wheel well. Very cool. And of course, the glass. You know, this was extremely revolutionary at the time. Even the plastics on the body. No one did this before. You had the Porsche script there on the back, and this was revolutionary. No one was doing that in plastic at the time. It was a bumper that really made the car look stylish yet still protected. Although even in America you have to have those extra bumpers for the Fed's protection standards. But still, it's a very cool look and really, really revolutionary at the time. The phone dial wheels really set off the side profile of the car. Now, younger viewers might not even know what phone dial wheels mean. Well, basically what you have here is, that's how you used to dial a phone, a rotary phone back in the day. So that's why they call them phone dials. Very, very cool, and I love this look. The later ones are also cool. In fact, I have a set of those sitting in my shed with nice tires on them if anybody's interested from the later models. But these to me are just classic Porsche 928. Yes, the phone dials. So there you go, the Porsche 928, spiritual grandfather of today's Porsche Panamera. Inside, the fun continues, and believe it or not, this was very revolutionary for the late 70s as well. You've got the classic Porsche 911 SC steering wheel. Yes, that's right, it's also on the 911 SC. Check out my review of my own Porsche 911 Targa 1982, and also all my 911 reviews while you're at it, including my 996 that I just got and 997, plus some Porsche's modern ones on the track, including the Panamera. Check out those reviews elsewhere on YouTube. But this one, man, just a time machine. The last owner did some customizing because, of course, all the dashes, be they vinyl or plastic, leather, whatever, they all wear out. And so this one's been taken care of, although some people might not like the styling. This admittedly is not a Concours car, but you know, I think it captures the time and certainly has some nice patina, we'll call it. But I think overall it's in good shape considering it's a 1978, and I do like the original seats, even though they are a little bit torn in places, but still comfortable and supportive as any Porsche seat should be. You can, of course, go ahead and lift them back to have access to the rear seats. That's right, there was more room in this than in the 911, and yes, this car was supposed to replace the 911 because of the quirky handling, rear engine, rear wheel drive. Americans maybe couldn't get used to it, and of course Ralph Nader had panned the Corvair, so that's what you had going on, and that's why Porsche said, hey, well, one executive at Porsche said, hey, let's replace the 928 with this. But of course, history shows what happened there. That did not happen, but still, what it did result in is a very cool sporting GT. This one is extremely luxurious for its time. Power windows, and this one, of course, the rare 5-speed manual. Crazy shifter there. But and another custom touch here, no radio on this one. But air conditioning, although this car does not have the air conditioning, it's been taken out. And nice heat, and basically all the creature comforts for, remember, the mid to late 70s when this car was developed and built. Again, a lot of comfort. Even this, check it out. You could go ahead and adjust the steering column. The whole thing moves as one piece, and that was the first time anyone saw this in a car. So that was revolutionary for comfort. And this one's got some custom pedals as well, but a lot of room in the back for storage, and again, more room than a 911. So Porsche really, some say they over-engineered this car. Look, sun visors for the back. That is just too cool. The key is on the right-hand side, which is kind of sacrilege, but hey, I guess we'll have to deal with that. But lots of controls for lights and things like that. But most importantly, the gauges in front of you. Yes, you had them all. Big tachometer, big speedometer, voltmeter, oil pressure, fuel gauge, and also temperature gauge as well. You get some warning lights also. Other interesting interior touches are the handbrake on the side there. Your armrest in the middle is actually a storage compartment too, and look, you get tape storage. Yeah, that's not a sign of the times or anything. Man, I used to love my mixtapes. Power windows, and look, there is a 1978 quarter mounted right in the middle. The last owner did that for posterity. This is an aftermarket shifter, and right now it's in first gear. That's right, first gear is down to the left, reverse is straight ahead there, and then you get, of course, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And the reason they do that, just like in Ferraris, is because you're in first gear the least amount of time when you're driving at speed and on the track. So it's really a performance thing. And I think pretty cool too. Clock and hazard lights here, and then of course air conditioning and ventilation. You get a nice sized glove box, and fortunately there's also the original owner's manual as well inside, which is a really nice feature. Good to have. I also have the factory workshop manuals as well. They're also very nice to have, and I think pretty rare these days. But wait, there's more, even storage underneath. That's a nice touch. So it's a purpose-built car with a purpose-built interior that was paradigm shifting back in the day. You even got a windshield wiper on the back glass. Open it up with the key, and just look at that. Lots of space for your luggage. Spare tire and battery underneath here. You put the transmission in back so that the car would have very good 50-50 weight distribution. It's actually about 49.7 and 50.3 towards the front, but basically 50-50 weight distribution. And man, what a cool interior and just a cool design. Okay, so it didn't replace the 911, but it still is a very good GT car that's really quite quick for its day, but we'll get to that later. Don't forget to check out my disc golf videos as well elsewhere on my channel too. Great sport, fun to play, and great exercise too. You can play it with the whole family. Powering this Porsche 928 is a 4.5-liter V8 engine. It makes 219 horsepower in America and has a top speed of about 143 miles an hour. 0 to 60 is 6.8 seconds for the manual transmission here, but it is very torquey. It has 254 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPMs. That might be a little much for the American model, but close to that, and certainly very torquey engine. As I said earlier, the air conditioning components have been removed, which results, I think, in better cooling, and it was really pretty revolutionary engine at the time. They wanted to combine basically speed, lightness, and also, of course, reliability, but also fuel economy too. It could have made it a bit faster, but in America, they wanted to have some fuel economy too. You can expect probably at most around 18 miles per gallon. Not that you really care. View out over the hood there. Classic, especially with the lights up. Such a cool look. Maybe not as timeless as the 911, but still very cool. So the Porsche 928, I had one, and that one wasn't such a nice car, actually. Wasn't in great shape. I'm not going to say this one's in great shape either. Certainly not a Contour car, but this one, being a 5-speed manual and being in better shape than that other one overall anyway, is just such a joy to own. I haven't had it very long, but so far I've just loved every second of it. Driving this car with the 5-speed manual, it's like driving a totally different car. There's no comparison to the automatic transmission. A long time ago, I met a Porsche dealer. This was back probably in the 80s, and he brought in a 928 and also a 911 to my family business, which was car stereos and convertible tops and upholstery. I remember the Porsche dealer saying, "Oh, the car is so fast you don't need a manual transmission." I questioned the automatic transmission in the 928, and at the time, that was probably mid-80s, and it was a fast car, even with the automatic transmission, certainly. But being a fast car then and a fast car now is totally different, of course. And also, now that I've driven both cars, wow, the manual transmission car is much, much quicker, much more responsive. You definitely want a manual transmission Porsche 928 if you can get one. Not that the automatics aren't cool, not that you can't make them fast, and not that the later model ones aren't faster, because they are. In fact, the GTS, the later models, are just super, super fast. But this car really, really, like I said, is just a different experience with the 5-speed manual transmission. Much quicker and much more responsive. But how does it handle? Big engine up front, 4.5 liter V8 in this case, and very torquey. Pretty much anywhere you are above 2,000 RPMs, you can feel the torque. Definitely pulls strongly. And the handling, unlike the 911, of course, which can be tricky, well, not so with the 928. Very predictable. Push too hard, oversteer, and it's easily felt and corrected. Car. And here's the interesting thing. They call this the German Corvette, and I actually have a Corvette, a C3. Check out my review of that one. But it's kind of interesting driving both cars. When you drive a Porsche, there's just something very solid about it when you close the door. You know, you close the door in the Corvette and it's fiberglass, you know. It's definitely got a thud. But there's just something about the way a Porsche door closes, even on the 911 SC, my 1982. Any Porsche, 944 even, check out my review of the 944. But it's just a solid build quality. You know, it's not like everything is so heavy in this car, because actually the doors and the hood are actually made of aluminum to keep it a bit lighter. But it's a very, very solid car. It feels solid, feels well put together. Whereas the Corvette made of fiberglass, you know, you feel the danger a bit in that. And the handling is so much more refined in this 928. It's not really even comparable to the Corvette. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate a lot of different cars. In fact, I have two Priuses, two Prii. I have a video that says, is the Prius the best car in the world? Check that out. I'm probably the only car guy that likes the Prius. I appreciate all cars for what they are, and I do appreciate my C3 Corvette, love it. But this is just so much more cars, you know. It can take a turn. It can really do everything. It's got tons of room, whereas the C3 Corvette, try to go on a trip with that, oh boy. Anyway, the Porsche 928 handles like a Porsche, and you could use this car every day and enjoy it. Wow, it'll hold a turn. And you feel the mechanical nature of this car. You can hear it. You can hear the gearbox. You can hear the transmission in back. You can hear the engine. You can hear everything. It's a very analog experience. This was a very, very fast car back in the day. Make no mistake about it. And you are definitely involved with that speed and the drive of this Porsche 928. And that's what it's all about. So the shifter in the 928 is kind of interesting. First is back. It's a dog leg to second, and then third, fourth, and fifth back there. Reverse is all the way over and forward. So they do that, of course, because in racing, you're really never in first gear. You're usually in second, third, fourth, and fifth. So it's quicker to shift that way. That being said, the shifter is not really a quick shifter. It's kind of very German. You are in first. You are in second. You are in third. Just very long throws, I would say, but not quite as mechanical as the 915 transmission in my 911 SC. This you can shift a little faster, actually, so it's a bit more comfortable, I would say, than the 911 shifter. You can shift quicker, but still, it's not as snicky as, say, a Miata or something like that. But I guess it is kind of similar to a car like my Audi TT Quattro Roadster. Check out the review of that one elsewhere. That's a cool car. Laguna Seca Blue with a Borla exhaust. Very neat. Cruising in the 928. Yep. On the highway. And highway speeds, and you're only at like 2,500 RPMs. And you sit low. Certainly. And visibility all around is quite good because of all that glass. And wow, it's pretty unique. Not too many cars look like this back then or even today. So cool. What are they worth today? Well, there's certainly a lot of junky cars out there because they are kind of stereotypically difficult to maintain. What's that really mean? Well, the experts say they're no more difficult to maintain than the 911. It's just that people that buy the 911s, well, they've always been worth more money, so they tend to attract a buyer that has more money and can take care of the car. The 928s are in that class of kind of very, very cool classic sports cars that really have gotten very cheap over the years, and therefore owners maybe can't afford to take care of them, and so maintenance goes by the wayside. This particular car has been maintained. The owner maintained it and changed the oil, did all the servicing, and even came up with these kind of interesting, I think pretty cool interior fixes. I love the checkerboard, and there's certainly a history of that with the Porsche 928 model, so I think it's period correct, and I think it looks really cool, even though this is not a Concours car. I actually love the look of this and the fact that it's the 5-speed manual. So anyway, probably automatics, they start off in the few $1,000 range and then on up. I mean, the late model cars, especially if they have manual transmission, and they say that about 1 in 5 of these came with a manual transmission. Maybe it was less because they're certainly rare on the market, but if you find a manual transmission, it's going to cost you a bit more. So if you can pick up a really, really bad car that's a automatic for maybe a couple thousand, if it needs a lot of work, well, then it's going to be a lot more than that for the manual transmission. But I would say the range for a manual transmission 928 right now is probably in the really, really beater 5 to all the way up, of course, for the later GTS models, 25, 30, 35,000, and some rare models go for much, much more. You see them out there every once in a while. But the 928 is a great car, and it's certainly one that if you like the looks, yeah, go out and buy one. They say, just like the 911, buy the newest one that you can afford, the best one that you can afford, and make sure you have some money to take care of it, or you have the know-how to take care of it. That would be even better. But you can find out a lot of information on these cars. There's a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of internet groups. Of course, Porsche is a very, very well-loved mark, and whatever Porsche you have, you can definitely find some information on it out there on the interweb. So definitely join a club, join those online groups, and you will enjoy your ownership even more. Part of the appeal to me with the 928 is just the way it looks. It is such a cool looking car. All the great vintage, not really vintage, but classic sports car features. Not really classic either, but for this generation, perhaps the millennials, definitely vintage and classic. And you know, it's got the pop-up headlights. It's got that kind of wedge land shark look, and I just think it's cool. I still think it looks modern in a way, and hey, what more could you want from a car? It's very solid build quality. There's really not too much rust to speak of on many of these. Of course, again, neglected cars and cars that live in salty areas and things like that, well, yeah, they're going to have some problems. But overall, the transmissions, the engines, very, very robust in these cars. And Porsche really probably over-engineered it. So the later ones, I think, are more quirky. I had an 84. Check out my review of that one elsewhere on YouTube for more information on the 928. But I think they tended to have a little bit more problems because I think they put in more features, and that just led to more problems, in my opinion. Just from having owned that one and now owning this one. But they do have their little problems, you know, the back doesn't really stay shut. All of the shocks for the front and the back, they always have problems. Most of the problems associated with the Porsche 928 are just little niggling things that tend to be more of a pain in the butt than the car actually running. But again, you want to check for maintenance and that the owner has done everything to it. Now, the thing about the Porsche 928 that made it so desirable was that it was easier to drive than the 911. You know, rear wheel drive, rear engine, hanging over the rear axles. Well, that's why one executive at Porsche really wanted to change things and thought that the 911 would eventually go away. Well, of course, that didn't happen because everybody loves the 911, and for good reason. That light steering in front. Anyway, check out my reviews on the 911 for the full story there. But that being said, this one is special because it is easy to drive. It's just like every other American car with a big engine in the front and rear-wheel drive. This thing will easily cruise at highway speeds and be quite comfortable. 70 miles an hour, probably around 2,800, 2,700 RPM in this. So very comfortable fast cruiser, top speed up to 140-ish miles an hour. They say 143, 144. Porsche's figures are always low for all their cars, so if they tell you 0 to 60 in 7, well, you know it's going to be a little quicker, 6.8 seconds to 60 in this one. But it certainly had creature comforts, so your lady friend, she would probably be very comfortable, especially back in the 70s in this car versus other cars out there. It was just as comfortable as Mercedes of that period, and certainly as quick too. With the manual transmission, like I said, it's just a different beast. Also, this car was chosen as the European Car of the Year. Why is that special? Well, it's special because they didn't really choose sports cars for that. Usually it's a boring hatchback or something like that. Le Car, you know, something like that, Renault Le Car. But this one they thought was so special and paradigm shifting that they did go ahead and call it the European Car of the Year in 1978. So this one to me is very special, being the first year, 1978, and being a manual transmission Porsche 928. Like I said, check out my other Porsche 928 review for more information on the Porsche 928, but this one, yeah, that huge large engine up front, 5-speed manual. It is a special car, and of course, just the shape of it. Check out all my other car reviews. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Also subscribe to me on YouTube. Share my videos with your friends. Check out all my music videos. Check out my disc golf videos. Also check out my literal video for Chris Isaac's Wicked Game. Drivin Ivan.